Before this story begins, pause for a moment. Wherever you are watching from right now, your phone, your TV, your laptop, drop your country in the comments, because this story connects people across borders in a way few ever do. What you're about to hear happened in a single room, in front of a few dozen people, but its impact traveled across the world. It started with a laugh, not a loud laugh, not a cruel one, just a brief, dismissive chuckle that echoed far louder than anyone expected. A laugh that came from authority, from tradition, from decades of unquestioned mastery. And it was directed at something many had already underestimated for centuries: Filipino martial arts. What happened next challenged deeply held beliefs about sophistication, mastery, and what truly defines depth in human skill. The exchange took place in Hong Kong, a city where martial arts are woven into everyday life, not as entertainment, but as inheritance. Rooftop schools hidden between apartment blocks, quiet training halls above herbal shops, masters who never advertised but were known by reputation alone. This was not a tournament. There were no trophies, no belts, no winners to declare. It was a cultural demonstration summit, attended by respected martial artists from across East and Southeast Asia. The goal was simple: showcase traditions, exchange philosophies, and honor lineage. But lineage can also create blindness, especially when history convinces one tradition that depth must always look complex, ceremonial, and ancient to be real. At the center of the hall sat Master Wong Zhenhao, a name spoken with reverence in Hong Kong's martial arts circles. 60 years of kung fu training, multiple internal styles, a lineage tracing back to southern Shaolin traditions. He had trained students who became instructors who trained students of their own. His movements were studied, his opinions carried weight. When Master Wong spoke, conversations quieted without effort. He represented refinement, structure, and philosophical discipline. To many in the room, he embodied what true martial arts were supposed to look like: elaborate forms, controlled breathing, spiritual cultivation, and decades of visible progression carved into the body through repetition. As demonstrations unfolded, the room watched in respectful silence. Japanese karate forms crisp and symmetrical, Korean taekwondo demonstrations sharp and athletic, Chinese kung fu performances flowing and ceremonial. Each art presented itself with structure and beauty, clearly defined by centuries of tradition. Applause followed each demonstration, polite and restrained. Then the moderator announced the next delegation: Filipino martial arts. The room hesitated, a few heads turned. There was curiosity, but also uncertainty. When the Filipino representative stepped forward, they didn't wear ornate uniforms, no silk, no embroidered lineage symbols. One man carried 2 rattan sticks, another stood quietly behind him. That contrast alone was enough to trigger something unexpected. Master Wong let out a brief laugh. It wasn't meant to humiliate, but it carried the weight of dismissal. "Filipino martial arts," he said in Cantonese, then repeated in English for the international guests. "You mean stick fighting?" The words landed softly, but the implication was heavy. A few polite chuckles rippled through the room. Others shifted uncomfortably. Master Wong continued, his tone calm but authoritative. "These are practical methods, perhaps, but martial arts are more than effectiveness. Kung Fu," he explained, "was refinement, internal cultivation, forms that take decades to understand, philosophy passed through generations." Then he gestured lightly. "What depth," he asked, "exists in swinging sticks?" Near the edge of the demonstration area stood Daniel Reyes, 31 years old, third-generation practitioner of Kali. He had trained since childhood under his uncle, a former street fighter who returned to traditional Filipino systems after surviving violence that left lasting scars. Daniel had learned early that Filipino martial arts were often misunderstood, too simple, too direct, too practical to be respected by traditions built on ceremony. He had heard it before, many times. What separated Daniel from others was not skill alone, but restraint. His teacher had taught him that real mastery did not rush to defend itself. It waited. Daniel didn't respond to the laughter. He didn't lower his eyes, he didn't argue, he simply breathed and waited for silence to do its work. When the room finally settled, Daniel stepped forward. His voice was calm, respectful, steady. "Master Wong," he said, "may I ask for a demonstration exchange?" The question changed the atmosphere instantly. This was not a challenge spoken in anger. It was not an attempt to prove superiority. It was an invitation, a suggestion that understanding could be shared rather than argued. Murmurs spread across the hall. Some masters leaned forward, others frowned. Master Wong looked at Daniel for a long moment. The smile on his face wasn't mocking now. It was curious. "Very well," he said. "Let us see the difference." And just like that, a polite cultural exchange turned into something far more consequential. Master Wong stepped onto the mat first. What followed reminded everyone why he was respected. His body moved with precision and control, earned through decades of disciplined training. A southern dragon form unfolded across the floor, fluid yet grounded, explosive yet restrained. Hard strikes softened into circular motion, breathing synchronized with movement. Nothing was wasted, nothing rushed. This wasn't performance, it was refinement embodied. The room watched silently as mastery expressed itself without explanation. When Master Wong finished, applause filled the hall. Several masters bowed, even the Filipino delegation nodded respectfully. This was Kung Fu at its highest level, and no one denied it. Master Wong returned to his position, barely breathing hard. He turned to Daniel. "Now," he said, "show us your stick patterns." The expectation was clear: forms, sequences, choreography, something recognizable. Daniel stepped onto the mat. He didn't bow, he didn't assume a formal stance, he simply raised the sticks loosely in his hands. At first, it looked underwhelming, almost disappointing. No dramatic opening, no visible structure. Some in the room exchanged glances. This is what they had expected from stick fighting. But then Daniel moved. Not fast, not slow, intentional. And something subtle began to change in the room. Every movement Daniel made served more than one purpose. A strike transformed into a block mid-motion. A retreat shifted into control. Distance collapsed and expanded seamlessly. There were no pauses, no resets. The simplicity that had invited dismissal now demanded attention. The room leaned forward. Daniel stopped and addressed the audience. "This," he said, demonstrating a single strike, "is one angle." He repeated the motion. "One angle," he continued, "with 12 answers. Same movement, different outcomes, depending on timing, distance, pressure, intent. No memorized sequence, no fixed response, only decision." That was the first moment many in the room realized they were not watching something basic. Daniel explained that Filipino martial arts did not train sequences for performance, they trained principles for survival. "You don't fight style against style, we fight the situation." Then he introduced a concept unfamiliar to many present. He said, "We don't fight strength, we remove it." He asked Master Wong to throw a controlled punch. Master Wong agreed. The strike came clean and precise. Instead of blocking it, Daniel struck the attacking arm itself. Not hard, not flashy, exact. The punch stopped instantly. Master Wong froze. The room fell silent. This wasn't force overpowering force. This was structure being removed before it could express itself. Daniel repeated the demonstration slowly, explaining how targeting the limb disrupted balance, intent, and continuation. He explained that Filipino martial arts developed in environments where prolonged exchanges were dangerous. There was no space for extended forms or drawn-out battles. Survival demanded efficiency. The goal was not to defeat the opponent's technique, but to remove their ability to continue. He called it defanging the snake. Don't fight the whole snake, remove its fangs. The philosophy was simple, but the application required sensitivity, timing, and deep understanding. What many mistook for simplicity was actually compression. Decades of combat knowledge distilled into minimal motion. Then, Daniel addressed something Master Wong had criticized earlier: internal cultivation. He invited Master Wong to grab his wrist. What followed didn't look impressive. No explosive movement, no visible struggle, but every time Master Wong attempted to shift his weight, apply pressure, or initiate technique, Daniel responded instantly. Not through speed, but through feeling. He felt the intention the moment it formed. Pressure changed, and Daniel adapted before the movement completed. This is our internal training, not meditation and stillness, but calm inside chaos. The room had changed. Skepticism had been replaced with attention, curiosity with respect. Master Wong tried again and again. Each attempt met the same result: neutralization without force, control without domination. The audience no longer whispered, they watched in silence. Daniel explained that Filipino martial arts cultivated sensitivity through constant contact, pressure testing, and adaptability, not because it was written in texts, but because it was necessary. Generations fought colonizers, rivals, in environments that offered no safety. Philosophy wasn't debated in halls. It was learned in moments where mistakes meant injury or death. Daniel wasn't dismissing Kung Fu. He acknowledged its beauty and depth, but he was revealing a different path to sophistication. Finally, Master Wong stepped back, slowly. His expression had changed. The confidence was still there, but now it was accompanied by something else: reflection. He bowed deeply to Daniel, not as a courtesy, but as acknowledgement. "I judged simplicity as weakness," he said quietly. "I was wrong." The room reacted not with applause, but with something rarer: understanding. What had unfolded wasn't about superiority, it was about perspective. Two traditions shaped by different histories had collided, not in violence, but in truth, and both emerged changed. Footage of the exchange spread online within hours, then days, then millions of views. But the real impact wasn't digital, it was philosophical. Kung Fu schools in Hong Kong began inviting Filipino instructors. Weapons training returned to curriculums that had abandoned it for aesthetics. Masters began asking new questions, not about how something looked, but how it worked under pressure. Daniel never claimed Filipino martial arts were superior. He never needed to. He had demonstrated something more powerful. The depth doesn't always announce itself through complexity. In interviews that followed, Master Wong reflected publicly. "I spent my life perfecting forms," he said. "Daniel showed me principles that don't need protecting." He explained that Kung Fu sophistication lay in its structure and philosophical richness. Filipino martial arts, he said, were sophisticated through completeness. They worked with any weapon, any opponent, any situation, without needing memorization. That realization didn't diminish Kung Fu, it expanded it. Master Wong began integrating sensitivity drills inspired by Filipino systems into his teaching. Daniel returned home quietly. No victory tour, no public celebration. He continued teaching as he always had, in open spaces with minimal ceremony. His uncle reminded him that validation was never the goal, understanding was. The exchange in Hong Kong didn't elevate Filipino martial arts because they were already complete. It simply removed the misunderstanding that had hidden them behind simplicity. Daniel often repeated one lesson to his students afterward. Sophistication isn't measured by how complicated something looks, but how well it adapts when everything changes. Years later, the exchange was studied in martial arts communities as a turning point, not because it declared a winner, but because it challenged assumptions. It showed that philosophy could be lived rather than written, that internal cultivation could exist without stillness, that beauty could be found in efficiency. Filipino martial arts were no longer dismissed as basic stick fighting. They were recognized as principle-based systems capable of enhancing any tradition they touched. Master Wong summarized the lesson best in a later documentary. "I confused complexity with depth and elaboration with mastery," he explained. "The true sophistication reveals itself under pressure, not presentation." That statement resonated far beyond martial arts because it spoke to something universal. How often do people dismiss what looks simple? How often do they mistake decoration for substance? The story of that day in Hong Kong isn't about Kung Fu versus Filipino martial arts. It's about how different histories produce different expressions of mastery. One shaped by centuries of institutional refinement, the other forged through survival and adaptation. Both valid, both deep, both sophisticated in their own way. What Daniel showed wasn't a rejection of tradition, it was a reminder that systems evolve to meet the needs of their environment, that effectiveness doesn't negate philosophy, it creates one. Filipino martial arts didn't lack depth because they lacked forms, they contained depth because they removed what wasn't necessary. The laughter that started the exchange was not remembered for its disrespect, but for what it triggered, a moment where assumptions collapsed, where humility replaced certainty, where learning resumed. Daniel never tried to impress. He didn't need to. He let principles speak, and in doing so, reminded everyone watching that simplicity often hides infinite application. The most advanced systems are sometimes the ones that look ordinary to those who haven't learned how to see. Filipino martial arts were never basic, they were just efficient. And efficiency, when understood deeply, is its own form of beauty. The world didn't change because a master bowed, it changed because understanding replaced assumption. And sometimes the greatest lessons begin with a laugh and end with respect.